Hello everyone and welcome back to One Take Tutorials with me, Amish Hammer. Today we are going to be starting our journey into describing the weapon codexes. There is one for each weapon skill, so we will go over each one of them. Today we will be doing mace fighting. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to give the detailed versions of each of the stances and what they do. I will go give a little bit of tips and tricks about mace fighting. Just remember that the server is constantly updating, so maybe sometime down the line, the stances might have changed, they might have been buffed or nerfed. So just make sure you're watching this within a good amount of time, or if you're watching this in the future, just realize that it's probably changed or it might be a little bit different. So let's get into this. Give me 1 second. There you go. Let's do this. Okay. Today we are talking about macing. So there are multiple different styles of maces. There is multiple one-handed maces, which are maces, mauls. There's the warhammer. There's the club, and then it goes up in speed, or it gets slower, but then it goes to the two-handers. So you have all of the staves, and that's about it. And then the slowest one is the hammer. The hammer, I think, takes 5 seconds to swing, but it does some pretty big damage if you do it properly. So, without a pause, let's first get into the codexes. I will say, before we start this, a lot of the codexes normally have these first 3 stances. They're pretty much the same on most codexes, but they might have some slight differences. So I will read over all of them regardless. This is just me giving you a heads up that it's possibly going to be the same on most of them, especially for defensive and cleave. Okay, so first, we're going with aggressive. So aggressive increases your damage by 5% per rank, for a total of 7 tiers or 7 ranks. But for each rank that you gain, you take 1% more damage from all sources. This is a pretty normal stance. It's pretty good if you're just going for straight damage output, because usually if you're going to be running in a group and you just want to do a lot of damage, you're probably not going to be the damage taker. So 7% more damage if you're at tier 7, not that bad. So that's a good stance if you just want straight damage output. Next is defensive. So defensive, whenever your weapon swings, it doesn't have to contact, so you could completely whiff the hit, but every time you swing your weapon, your damage and resistance to all enemies is increased by 4% per rank for 5 seconds straight. Now, this is interesting because it says damage resistance. So in this game, there are multiple different types of damages. So there's physical damage. When a mob comes and just punches you in the face, that's physical damage. Then there's spell damage, which is obvious from casters. So that's range damage. I guess archery damage also counts as physical damage because it's physically hurting you. But there's physical damage, spell damage, and there's a third bracket called special damage. And special damage is Uh, most mobs do have special attacks. We all know this. So that is something you'll look out for. So maybe you're fighting uh, an Eldritch Drake on level 2 of New Sero, and they shoot that little orange ball at you. That little orange ball is considered special damage. It's not technically a spell, it's their special attack. So that is the third type of damage. And why did I bring this up? Because damage resistance covers all branches of damage, not just a specific one. In the past, certain things only used to defend against certain types of damage. I don't know if they still have those features on the server as often. I don't see it too much anymore, but I'm just trying to clear this up. So damage resistance is all forms of damage. So even if you you're in Darkmire for some reason and you decide to you want to go to level 3 and you have to go through that boulder trap. If you hit one of those antlions with defensive stance on for the next 5 seconds, you will be tankier. So then if you get hit by one of those boulders, you will be taking less damage technically, unless that is coded differently. So that's that. Next we will do Cleave. Pretty self-explanatory. You deal 8% more damage per rank towards 2 random mobs within 2 tiles, or a random mob within 2 tiles of you. So if you're attacking one mob and then another one gets aggroed onto you and it stands up right next to you within 2 tiles, you will deal damage towards that other mob as well. So that's pretty good, especially for like bosses or omni bosses when you need to kill all the ads but you don't want to leave the damage out on the boss. You can keep attacking the boss, and while things are getting taunted onto the main group, you're still going to be hitting something else and doing damage to it. So it's a pretty good balance, especially if you're trying to get experience, because you're going to kill things faster since you're killing multiple things at one time. Okay, next is Wild Swing. So usually the bottom 2 skills are the unique ones for the codex for each weapon skill. Wild Swing is the start of this. This one is very interesting. I would not recommend running this unless you have a high tier aspect or accuracy links. So what Wild Swing does is it reduces your accuracy by 2% per rank, but increases the damage you do by 8% per rank. So that's a 14% accuracy decrease, which is really rough. But if you're using a supreme weapon and you have a high tier aspect, or you have those accuracy links, this would be a fantastic one to run, because you're just going to get a straight accuracy or damage increase. 8% is a very hefty, chunky upgrade. Okay, so next and last, we are going to do Sunder. This is probably the most used one. This is the one I currently use a lot. I think it's very useful, because I think crushing through the armor drastically helps in the long run. So Sunder, this skill, it increases your damage by 4% per rank, but also adds a piercing effect that reduces the armor, or it adds a piercing effect, reduce an armor additional 5% armor per rank. So what this means, it's kind of worded weirdly. So the way I understand it is this ties in with the weapon special for mace fighting, which we'll go over in a second. Actually, we'll go through it right now since this is kind of tied together. So, for mace fighting, the weapon special is called a crushing blow, and what it does is, um, it hits through, or when you get it off, it causes. Where is it? I have it pulled up on my other window, guys. Give me 1 second. It increases the damage dealt by the attack that generates the special attack by 50%, but by up to 100% if the target is at or taken to 0 armor. So if every time you get a crushing blow, the piercing effect, the crushing blow attack, lowers the armor for 8 to 16 seconds. I think it's depending on the speed of your weapon. So when you get a crushing blow off, for the next 8 seconds to 16 seconds, it will reduce the armor. So Sunder, on the additional side of that, each rank that you have will increase the damage or the armor that it eats through. So it says, if the pierce effect reduces the armor below 0, the damage of the attack is increased by a percent equal to the amount of armor in excess to 0. So that means if you, for somehow get a mob down to 0 armor, and then you get a crushing blow off, and you're at tier 7, that's 35% or 35 armor, armor pierce just from Sunder, plus whatever you get from the initial crushing blow. And instead of that being just crushing through the armor, that damage goes into damage increase for that specific blow. So this goes very, very well with the following tip. So there's multiple stances that you can run, or multiple aspects you can run for this. Actually, first, we'll get to the aspects in a second. First, we'll go over Shatter. So I don't have a picture for this, so you guys just have to see this down here. Shatter inflicts 250% damage increase to the target whenever you get the weapon special off. If the player has any pierce effect active on the target, the effects are canceled, but the damage is increased by an additional 350%. So Shatter is really, really good if you run a weapon special build and you also plan on running Sunder, because you're always probably going to have a piercing effect on a mob. So that just means that you're constantly going to get more damage. Alright, so next is Pulverize, which inflicts 400% damage on the initial hit, and it applies a 5-second hinder. Hinder is a weapon special that archery uses, so it will just freeze things in place. It's basically a 5-second paralyze on a mob, which is very, very handy. Alright, so next we're gonna go over my my suggestions. So for this, we are gonna go. So you want to abuse the crushing blow special effect as much as possible because of how much it helps with your damage output. So you can either do a couple things, and this is where the multiple options come from. So first, we're just gonna start at base one, air. Okay, air's great, makes you swing faster. So that it's obviously more chances to get a crushing blow because you're swinging faster. Not my first suggestion. My first suggestion would actually be discipline armor. Strictly speaking, because of this bonus that you get right here, this weapon special damage bonus. Don't use my tier as an example. Just know that with discipline armor, your weapon specials get a damage bonus for every time they go off. So right now, at tier 13, my weapon specials, if I have discipline armor on, they will do 80% more damage every time they go off. Or they're 80% stronger. And then it also gives you a melee damage increase and a damage resistance buff, which is fantastic. So you're constantly doing 32% more damage, and you're reducing that damage. And then down here, the chance to ignore weapon finisher. This is very handy if you want to keep getting the crushing blow or the weapon finisher off. What this does is, whenever you get the weapon finisher off, if you have discipline armor on, it gives you I have a 32% chance on that specific hit to reset the cooldown so I can do another finisher on a single mob. Normally you can only do one finisher per normal mob. The only things that are excused by this are bosses. You can do multiple finishers on bosses, but it's a 1 minute cooldown. But with this cooldown finisher, I could do back-to-back finishers on a regular mob if I'm lucky enough. So discipline would be my first suggestion if you're trying to go for crushing blows and getting lots of damage out. Next, obviously Earth. Earth is very nice if you want to be tanky. Earth with mace fighting, you get a melee damage bonus of 225%. It's a small chance, but if you can get that going, that is a chunky damage increase, and you're also very tanky while standing there. Next, we are going to go all the way over to Void. Why Void? Void is one of the more tanky ones, but it also has a chance to ignore armor and resistance, so it's a 15% damage bonus, but the chance also goes with your other crushing blow and your Sunder, so all that combined, you're just gonna constantly have the mob not really having any armor, so you're just gonna keep doing just straight blunt damage, which is very nice. You also get a auto stat regeneration, so you can get yourself some free heals, and it gives you parrying and magic resist, which also we'll go into when we do the parry codex. But this is a very beneficial section of this armor. And then the last suggestion is water aspect. Now, water aspect is very underutilized in melee, I would say, because it's just not tanky, but you get some insane healing. But the main thing is the weapon special chance and charge spell chance. So this right here, this weapon special, it increases the odds of your weapon special going off. So I have currently on my build, I have a 28% chance to cause a weapon special every time I hit. So now, if I do this and activate water aspect, and then go back here and do this, I now almost have a 50% chance to cause a weapon special. So this is for those guys that want to spam weapon specials but don't have to tank. There's also improved healing that you get, so you receive and give better heals if you need it. If you're running alchemy on your build, You also get an alchemy bonus, which also drastically helps with that. So the water aspect is just a very fun, underrated weapon skill or aspect. So those four would be my main suggestions if you're trying to go for a crushing blow based build. Also, one last thing I would suggest is for all weapon skills, to balance out the speed and slowness of the difference of a one-hander and a two-hander, they recently made it so if you are using a two-hander, to make up for that slower speed, you get a damage bonus just by having a two-hander. So it's already slower, and it also gives you a higher chance to cause a proc, but you also get, I think it's 20%, a 20% increase to damage just by like just having a two-hander. You can also run any weapon special, or you can run your parry codex with a two-hander. So you can gain experience with a shield codex with a two-hander, or one-hander and a shield. That is it for now, guys. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Post comments. If you have questions, anything I wasn't clear about, just let me know and I will try and answer them for you the best I can. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thank you for stopping by. Next, I don't know which weapon skill we will be doing for the codex. It will be a mystery, but I will see you guys next time. Have a good rest of your week.